Now, in this video, we are going to create a user and submit the user information into the database. Okay, and then we're going to display a success message and redirect the user to the home page. That is the goal of this particular video. And without wasting time, let us do that. Now, this is our code, and then we want to go and open the front-end folder. Inside it, we are going to the SRC folder, and then the components, the pages. Then we are going to do our coding inside the create page.view. Okay, this is where we are going to create the user and then submit the user information to the database table that we just created recently. Okay, the details table. Okay, so first thing, we have to make sure that our servers are running using the XJump control panel. Make sure the local servers are running, the Apache is on, and the MySQL are on. Okay, so we can click on this admin to be directed to the admin dashboard, where we can see our CRUD application database, where we are having our details table right there. And you can see the table columns have been created, the ID, name, email, address, phone, created at, updated at. But currently there is no any single user information which has been saved. Okay, that is what we are going to achieve in this particular video. Now, let us open our front-end project. So we are going to open the terminal, new terminal, and then we are going to move into the directory, front-end directory. And then we're going to run out the project, npm run dev. Then the project is running on this particular URL. We're going to copy it and we're going to open it on a new tab. This is our project, and currently you can see we are just displaying the static data, the data that we have hard coded from our code, from our VS Code. But we want in future, instead of this hard coded information, we want them to be fetched from the database. Okay, so currently we are going to focus with this add contact page. This is the center of our focus. This is where everything begins, because we have to create the user. The user has to be saved inside this table, and then on the contact page, all the user information has to be fetched from the database and be displayed here. Okay, so we are going to start on this page. That's why we are inside the create page.view. Okay, now let us start doing the thing. And again, we need to make sure that we open another terminal, then where we are going to navigate into the backend and make sure that the backend servers are running. So php artisan serve, press enter. Now make sure this is on. Okay, so we can start immediately without wasting time and start by creating the user information. So we're going to create a variable const user data, which is going to be in the ref. We have to import ref from view, ref from view, like that. Okay, now inside the ref we have to expect an object name which is going to be empty, then the email, which is going to be empty as well, like that. Then the address, which is going to be empty, and then the phone, which is going to be empty as well, like that. Okay, and we are going to create a function. Okay, we're going to create a function, and this function we can call it submit. So function where we're going to submit our user information. So submit function, okay, and this is going to be a synchronous function whereby the user information will have to request from the backend. Okay, the user information has to travel to the backend and respond back with the JSON data. So this has to be async. Okay, asynchronous, async. And then whenever we are using an async function, we expect two things. We can expect an error or a successful request. So we are going to handle the errors inside the try catch block. So we are going to console.log the error.response, which we're going to create .message. Okay, and then from the try block is where we're going to define our variable, which is response, which is going to be await. We're going to await for this response. Now we are going to you remember we created an axios.js. Okay, this is where we connected our frontend to the backend, and that's where we need that Axios over here. So Axios client. Okay, you need to make sure that you have imported it. So Axios client dot post, because we are going to register the user information to the database, so we have to use a post method, and our URL is /API/details as we saved it. And then we're going to send the user information via that path. So our user information has been created on the user variable, user data. So you can copy it and then you can paste it and then say .value to make sure that these values are sent. Okay. Now you can console.log that one. Console.log now we can console.log the response .data and see what's the response. Okay, now we are going to our input field and bind them using the vModel. So vModel, for this one, this is the name. So we are going to bind the user data .name. We are going again on the email input, vModel, then user data .email. On the address, we are going on the input field, vModel, inside it user data dot address, and then finally on the phone we're going to bind it model phone user data dot phone like that. Now our user information, our input fields has been linked to this user data. So anything that will be changing on the input field will directly affect this user data, and anything that happens inside the user data from the code will directly affect the input UI. So that is a two-way binding. Okay, so we are going to attach this function, this submit function. Then we can attach it on the form. Where is our form? Here it goes. So we are going to remove the post method and the action, and then we are going to call this method that we have created. So at submit, we should make it sure that it's .prevent to prevent the refreshing when you click the submit button. Okay, so we are going to call this function, submit function, that we've just created below here. Okay, yeah, so I think that's it. We can go and try to see if the user informations are being saved to the database. Okay, I don't think I have left something behind, so let us go and check it out. So we can inspect this one on the console. So we can press F12, or you can right click and inspect like that, and then choose the console tab. Okay, now whenever we let's create a new user, we can say user1, we can say 1@gmail.com, and then a random address, then a random phone number. Okay, and then we can click on add user. Something is wrong. We can refresh it. Content. Let us see what's the problem. Yeah, it is back. So we can go to the add contact, and then we are going to create the user again. So user1 1@gmail.com, and then address, we're going to put some random address, then phone number, just a random number, and then we can add user. I think we are experiencing an error. Let me find out the error. I think our URL is somehow different, because we are using web hash history, and on our backend, on the course configuration file, let us see on our course configuration file, where is it, config, and then the course, we are using this URL. Okay, so this should be the absolute URL, while on the home page, but not with the hash. Okay, like this. So we need to configure that. We're going to adjust that from the router file where we configure our route. So we can do that. So we are going to, instead of importing the create web hash story, we are going to import create web history instead, and then we are going to update here. So it will create web history with no hash. We can save on that, and then we can go to the front end. We can go to the front end. Right here, we can Control C to terminate the terminal. Then we can clear. Then we can run again npm run dev. Now the URL is clean. It is the same as the one that we saved from the course file inside the configuration folder from the backend. Okay, so that should be acceptable. So our backend server is still on. Then we can just open our project on this new, okay, on this new URL. Yeah, now it is good. Whenever we click, we navigate to the add contact. You can see there is no longer a hash there. And whenever we go back to the home, that's perfect. So this should work. So let's try and save a new user search. You can say user one. Those are two names. So one@gmail.com. Then address some random things. Then a random phone number. And then we can click on add user and see. Now you can see on the console, let me magnify. You can see there is a response that has been sent, and you can see the data here, the address, the created art, the email, the ID, the name, okay, and the message user created successfully. So that's a success. So that means when we go to the database, we should find our user, and there you go. You can see our user has been saved right there. Okay, so one last thing that we need to do, that is just for the UI, and you will find this feature in most of the applications. Okay, so we are going, whenever we click the inside of the create page, whenever we click the submit button or add user button, we need to be redirected to our home page. Okay, now let us add that feature. We need to be redirected to the home page with a success message. Okay, so we are going to add that feature. Now, below here, we are going to set a timeout, a JavaScript method. So we're going to write set timeout. Then we are going to place an arrow function inside, like that. And then we're going to define the time at which we want this to be executed. So we're going to assign it 2 seconds. Okay, so that's at 2000. That is equivalent to 2 seconds. Okay, and inside it now we are going to push it to, we're going to push it to the home page. So the push to the home page. So the path for the home page as we defined from the router, it is /. Okay, but before somebody is pushed to the home page, we have to create a message for success. So we're going to define a variable. You can say success message, like that. It's going to be false at the moment, and then we're going to give it a value false, like that, and then we are going to assign it the success message. So success message dot value, sorry for that. So success message dot value, you have to get it from the backend, which is equivalent to the response dot data dot message. I think that's correct. Data dot message, user created successfully. It has to be like that. Okay, so after we equate the message like that, we are going on the top here, on the top, far top, where we are going to create a paragraph just before the H1, add new user. So we're going to create a paragraph, and we are going to display this paragraph using a VIF with a condition. Okay, and VIF the success is through success message, like that. That means if there is a success message, the message has to be displayed above here. Okay, so you have to display this success message as it is, like that. And then you are going to style this paragraph to be somehow to have some good color. We can say some text has to be white because of our background. White. Okay, and then the background has to be green background of around 600 pixels, and the size of the text has to be small. Text has to be somehow small. Text SM, like that. I think that's it. Should be rounded, at least rounded. Padding on the Y, 1. Padding on the Y, you can give it the 1. And then padding on the X, you can give it around 2, like that. I think that should be it. Okay, you can save on that. Yeah, now let's go and see if we create, what happens if we create another user. So for example, we're going to create user number 2 for user 2, like that. Then email user2 at gmail.com, and then address is going to be some random numbers, phone, some random numbers. Okay, then we click on add user. You can see user created successfully, and we are redirected to the home page. Okay, let us add a third user. So we can say user 3, then user 3 at gmail.com, then some random address, some random number. Then whenever we click add user, you can see user created successfully, then we are redirected to this page. Now, in the next video, instead of us seeing this static data, we are going to fetch them from the database. Okay, that is what we are going to do on the next video. And then after there, we are going to enable these buttons, the edit and delete buttons. So stay tuned.